Hi friends, I am Denise Baszler. I'm 44 years old and I have never in my life made a tutorial video. So this is a first for me. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to watch it, putting up with my long awkward pauses and probably saying the wrong word to describe things a lot of the time. But hopefully you'll come away knowing a little bit more about bass than when you started the video. I was getting ready to create this video and I pulled all of my bass stuff out of the closet and I started to put it together, and then I was like, what am I doing? I'm supposed to show you how to put it together. So this is where we are. This is my bass guitar. It is in what is called a soft shell case. This one has handy dandy backpack straps, which is nice for maybe bike riding to a gig or walking. It's also very lightweight. The disadvantage of a soft shell case is that it doesn't protect your bass quite as well as what would be a hard shell case. Hard shell cases are great. They're ideal, especially if you have an expensive bass or a vintage bass that you really need to not move around a lot. Also very good for traveling. The disadvantage of hard shell cases is that they're expensive and they're heavy, and I'm all about lightweight. So this is my bass, and she is a Dan Electro Longhorn. These were made popular in the 60s by John Entwistle, the bass guitar player for The Who. And I chose it. I looked around. I wanted this one in particular because of the cool color, but mostly because it is extremely lightweight. I think this bass weighs 7 pounds, which is so much easier on the back. The other particular thing about this bass is that it is what's called a short neck or short scale. Sorry, it's a short scale bass, and it does have a shorter neck. That means that it has fewer of these frets, but it also means that you don't have to stretch your arm as far to go up and down the neck. I started playing on a regular long scale bass, and that was fine. I had I never thought once that it was, I had to reach too far. But when I was looking for a lightweight bass, I stumbled across this one and thought I'd give short scale a try. And I don't know if I'll ever go back, because it's not so bad to go all the way up the neck, but it's really nice when you don't have to go as far. Now, the disadvantage of this short scale bass is that it doesn't go as far down on the neck, so you don't have as many notes to play, but especially if you are early on in your bass guitar playing career, that shouldn't be a big deal. So let me tell you about all the different parts of the bass. So just like the human body, the bass has a body. This is the body. This is the neck, and this is the head. This body, the bass body, just like our bodies, has lots of curves in it, and that's a good thing, because when you're sitting down and playing, you can rest one curve on your leg, and then you have another curve to rest your arm, and that makes playing a bit more comfortable. When you're standing up, if you're going to stand up and play, you need a strap. And different basses have different ways of putting on the straps. This one happens to be pretty easy. You just pop it in the peg there. But some of them actually have to be screwed in. It's a little bit more of a process, but not impossible to figure out. So if you're standing up, you'd want to hold it. I want to hold it like this. People have different preferences. I think, especially in punk bands, it's super cool to have it slung low, but for me, it's super comfortable to be up here. You want to be careful of how you place your wrist. The more you bend, the more you have to bend to get to your strings. over time, that can really wear out a wrist. And if you also spend a lot of time typing, it can really wear it out. So you want it to be as ergonomically correct as possible, so you're keeping your wrists as straight as you can while still looking extra cool, because that's super important. Okay, so body, neck, head. This is the bridge. When you're putting strings in the guitar, they start there and you thread them through all the way up to the tuning pegs. And those tuning pegs determine how short, or I guess tight or loose, each string is, which then gets your guitar either in tune with the other instruments in the band, or sometimes people like to tune them completely different than what's traditional. So we'll talk more about tuning later, a little more about the parts. These right here on my bass are pickups. Any electric bass is going to have pickups. They just might look a little different. But when you see these little doohickeys underneath of the strings, they're meant to pick up the sound of the string just like a microphone. So once you plug it into the amplifier, which I'll do in just a minute here, the sound is picked up by the pickup, aptly titled, and then comes out of the amplifier nice and loud. Then you have tone and volume. One is obviously volume and makes it loud or soft. And then tone, honestly, I've never really figured out tone. It changes the sound, and you just want to kind of adjust it along with the adjustments on your amplifier to get the sound the way that you want it. So here, wrapped around my neck, is my instrument cord. And this instrument cord goes into the jack, which is right there. And then this instrument cord goes into the jack on the amplifier. So, as I said, I did not set anything up so that I could show you how to do it. This particular amplifier is a cabinet and a head. Essentially, this is just a speaker. It's like a speaker on a stereo system. It has no electronic controls until you plug the amplifier head into it. All of the controls are up here. So this is your electronics. This is your amplification. This is a speaker cord, which is different than this instrument cord. So you can't use an instrument cord to connect speakers together, or in this case, an amplifier to a speaker. You need specifically a speaker cord. And if I hold the two of these things together, you can see that this is the speaker cord, and it's a lot thicker than this instrument cord. Now it goes into the back of this. I'm not going to turn it around for you, but it's pretty obvious. There's a jack back here on the head. There is a jack back here on the speaker. One says in, one says out. Then this is the electricity, which is vital to make an electric bass go. So I'm plugging this electricity into the head where all the electronics are. And then that's why it's very important to have a speaker cable specifically for connecting to the speaker, because it's also sending power, electricity into the speaker, which makes it go. So I plug that there into the wall, and then I will turn it on and see what kind of noise we make. Okay, those are in there. So I will move that in just a second, but I want you to see how these controls can sort of adjust the sound. So first one here is gain, but then my last one here is volume. Gain works very much like volume. It has to do with not only the volume, but the fullness of the sound. Then this is a very simple head, and it has range, and treble. My preference is, well, I'll just play this and show you. So my bass is up 3/4 of the way, so that if you were looking at a clock, it would be sitting at 3 o'clock. And if I just play that string, turn the bass down, it makes a somewhat perceptible difference, and it's probably really hard to tell coming through my earbuds into the iPhone. But anyway, you just work on those to get to the sound that you need. Some like a really plucky bass sound, some like their bass sound to be very deep and low. Somebody might want it right in the middle, but you just keep playing with those knobs until it just feels right for the kind of music that you're playing. Okay, so a little bit more about how to use this bass guitar. So, strings. We have E, A, D, and G. Not for sure that's in tune, but it's actually better if it's not exactly in tune, because then I will show you how to tune it. Let's see. So E, A, G, and D, or I'm sorry, E, A, D, and G. I have heard the one, what do you call it, a mnemonic device to remember that is Elizabeth 8 Dynamite. Goodbye. So E, A, G, and D. Elizabeth 8 Dynamite. Goodbye. On a regular guitar, which I will, I say regular guitar, on a 6-string guitar, it's those same first 4 notes, E, A, G, and D. Those are the first 4 strings on a regular guitar, and then you have the last 2 strings on a regular guitar are B, and then it goes back to E. Now, this is a 4-string bass. If you get a hold of a 5-string bass, your first top string, the lowest string, the standard tuning for that is B. So it would start with B, and then E, A, D, and G. So let me show you how to tune this bad boy. I'm bad girl in this case. Stormy is definitely a girl. This is an electric guitar tuner. You can use a guitar tuner for a bass guitar. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen specifically a bass guitar tuner. I've always used regular guitar tuners. So I'm gonna turn my amplifier off, because when you unplug or plug in an instrument, when the amplifier's on, it makes this really horrific cracking, popping noise. So to avoid that, you just turn it off and then you unplug it. Let me show you what I just did there. And you are gonna have to watch me fumble through this, because I can never remember which is in and which is out. So normally, especially when you're playing, rehearsals with other band mates, you'd have 2 of these instrument cords. I don't happen to have 2 instrument cords that I could easily find, but you would have 2 instrument cords. One would go in, one goes into the input jack on your guitar, one end goes into the tuner. Then you would have another cord that comes out of the tuner and goes into your amplifier. That way you can tune on the fly, because when you hit, and this particular tuner, when you hit this button, it mutes the guitar to the amplifier, but then it will show you what instrument you're playing. It'll show you what note you're playing and which direction you need to go to get it in tune. So let me show you what that looks like. I plugged it in, nothing happens. That means I plugged it in on the wrong end. With this tuner, I think when I plug it in correctly, it lights up, just like that. And then I play my first note, and nothing happens because I didn't hit the foot switch. Okay, so that first letter is E, remember Elizabeth? And that happens to be somewhat in tune, but it's telling me that I am a bit flat. So I adjust my tuning peg tighter. If it's flat, you want to go tighter. And now it's way too short. That means loosen it up a bit. So I'm not showing you that very well, but it depends on the kind of bass that you're using. You just kind of look at it and logically decide which direction is tighter and which direction is looser. So what do we have here? Well, that's pretty close. On this tuner, when it lights up green, it's telling me that it's in tune. It is just ever so slightly flat, so we'll adjust it there. And then you do the same with the next note. So that was Elizabeth, 8, letter A. Oh, we're pretty close. A little bit flat, so I will just hit that key a hair. And we're gonna call that good. So Elizabeth 8, Dynamite, letter D. That one is also ever so slightly flat. Oh, and then that's good. Goodbye, letter G. Elizabeth 8, Dynamite, G, goodbye. And that G is not too bad, but also a little bit flat. So I'm just gonna make that string shorter, because flat means there's too much give in the string when it's flat, and when it's sharp, it means that it's ever so slightly too tight, or maybe a lot too tight, and you need to go in the other direction. So that wraps up the introduction to the bass. My next video is going to be a lot more details on the particular notes and how to play. So thanks for watching. Bye.